When my girlfriend, Emily, invited me to her company's annual gala, I felt a mix of excitement and apprehension. She worked at one of the top marketing firms in the city, a place filled with sharp-dressed executives who made six figures before turning 30. I, on the other hand, was a mechanic. I loved my job, working with my hands, solving problems, and hearing the satisfying roar of an engine coming back to life. But I wasn't blind to the fact that people in Emily's world looked down on people in mine. Still, she wanted me there, so I put on my best suit, even though I knew it wasn't designer, and walked into the grand ballroom with her. The chandeliers sparkled above us, the waiters carried trays of expensive champagne, and everywhere I looked, people were dressed to impress. Emily introduced me to her colleagues, and I could feel the subtle, and sometimes not so subtle, judgment the moment I shook their hands. One of them, a tall, smarmy-looking guy named Brandon, eyed me with barely concealed amusement. He worked directly under the CEO and clearly thought highly of himself. As he shook my hand, his grip was a little too firm, like he was trying to prove something. "So, Emily tells me you're a mechanic," he said, his lips twitching as if holding back a laugh. I nodded. "Yeah, I run my own shop." His eyebrows lifted slightly, as if that information surprised him. "Oh, wow! That's nice." A woman next to him, Rachel, let out a soft laugh. "Well, I guess if my car ever breaks down, I know who to call." The group around them chuckled, and I forced a smile, pretending not to care. But I noticed the way Emily shifted uncomfortably beside me. She had probably anticipated this, and while she wasn't the type to be outright embarrassed by me, I could tell she wished they would at least be polite. As the night went on, I could feel the quiet glances in my direction, the subtle smirks, the whispered comments that weren't meant to be heard, but were spoken just loudly enough. Blue collar, doesn't fit in, out of place, golden retriever boyfriend. They thought I wasn't smart enough, successful enough, or important enough to be there. Then, fate decided to intervene. The CEO, Mr. Lancaster, arrived late, looking flustered and frustrated. The room practically shifted toward him. People straightened their ties, eager to get a word in with the man who held their careers in his hands. But he barely acknowledged them as he spoke to one of the senior executives. "My Mustang broke down a block away," he muttered. "Damn thing just wouldn't start." Brandon and the others perked up, eager to impress. "Oh, that's tough," Brandon said. "Maybe you should call a tow truck?" "Yeah," Rachel chimed in. "I think there's a service nearby that can pick it up in the morning." I stepped forward before I could stop myself. "I could take a look." Mr. Lancaster turned to me, his sharp blue eyes narrowing slightly. "You know cars?" I shrugged. "I'm a mechanic. I could probably tell you what's wrong in a few minutes." For the first time that evening, I had the full attention of the room. There was a pause, a moment of hesitation, and then Mr. Lancaster nodded. "All right, let's go." We stepped outside, and I spotted the car immediately, a beautifully maintained 1967 Mustang, deep midnight blue with chrome accents. I'd read about it before. Mr. Lancaster had even been featured in a magazine talking about how much he loved the damn thing. Seeing it up close, though, was something else. I popped the hood and took a quick look. It took me less than 10 minutes to diagnose the problem. A loose belt. A simple fix, really. With a few adjustments and a bit of tightening, I had the engine roaring back to life. Mr. Lancaster grinned as he listened to the purr of the motor. "You just saved me a massive headache," he said, genuinely impressed. "Let me pay you for your time." I shook my head. "No need." I was happy to help. He studied me for a moment, then nodded. "You know, we've been looking for someone to handle our company's fleet maintenance. Our trucks and company cars need regular servicing, and we'd rather work with someone reliable. If you're interested, I'd love to talk business." I smiled. "I'd love that." When we walked back into the ballroom, Mr. Lancaster didn't just return to his usual conversations. He made a point of telling the people around him about how I'd fixed his car in minutes. Suddenly, the same people who had mocked me earlier were looking at me differently. Brandon and Rachel were silent, their smug expressions completely wiped away. Emily squeezed my hand again, but this time she wasn't uncomfortable. She was proud. They had laughed at me earlier, but in the end, the last laugh was mine.